Okay, my friends, I'm sorry about the last part of the previous video. I went into a different page and I got confused. Yeah, so we don't of course we don't start from the from Ice Age, of course, my friends. No, we want to start from the time that Earth was formed, right? 4,500 million years ago, right? 4,500 million years ago, the earth was formed, right? And then we go a little bit ahead, and of course, the numbers here are coming down, right? We go a little bit ahead, and water comes on earth, is produced on earth, right? The earliest lives, the earliest oxygen, right? 3,500 million years ago, right? And then we have a crisis, right? Oxygen crisis about in the Huronian period, right? And so on and so forth. And then you go further and further into, you come closest to our time, right? And you see all of a sudden, right, there's a Cambrian explosion here. If you look at in these four, yeah, the Cambrian explosion. So you see where the Cambrian explosion is here, right? And you see all of a sudden all these creatures begin to be formed, right? You see anthropods, you see tetrapods, you see dinosaur, plants, mammals, birds, flowers, and finally you have the earliest apes, right? Before you get your ice age, and after that again life continues, right? So Earth formed, right, almost 1 billion years ago at the end of the Panosia period, right? Okay, so the Panosia period, right? Okay, after which comes our Paleozoic era, right? Zoic era, and you see that it starts with the Cambrian explosion where we left off, right? And then you see first vertebrates, first land plants, first jawed fish, first 360 million years ago, first insects, and so on and so forth, right? And again, at the end of the Permian period, you get the greatest explosion of it all, right? So yeah, so by the time the Earth is formed, right, and and Earth is formed, right? Its moon, right, is going around it, right, and the whole thing, right, is gonna come out of the horizons there right now, yes, and that is when you get your movements around the sun, right? You get your solar year, right? Let Earth come out, right? Okay, a solar year is one, right? One sort of circle around the Earth, right? That was 1 year, right? Right there, that was 1 year that passed, right? And as you see, the Earth is carrying its moon, right? And the month is being carried on like that, right, my friends? And that is when, right, our species, right, after after the ice age, right, our species is born, right, on Earth, right, and that's when we look into the skies, right? We look into the skies and we see the movement of the earth. Of course, we don't realize yet that the earth is moving, and so on and so forth. So we get to our solar system. So this is the way, hundreds and millions, hundreds of millions of years ago, right? Life begins on Earth, right? You will have seen videos about how this life develops and so on and so forth, right? And you saw a definition of a solar system and what happens when when ancient man looked on the skies and saw the sun and the moon and so on and so forth, right? So life begins to sort of take shape on Earth, right? And we will see what is the chronology of that human species that was born, right, just before the ice age that developed, right, and so on and so forth. And then you know as we will see, our ancestors began moving to different parts of the world, right? And we began to inhabit different parts of the world, right? We will get to how that happened first. But remember what one of the things that we began this session by what is Western, right? So we want to kind of get an idea, right, about how was it that the historic man, right, created its first world maps, right? So and then we get to the Babylonian world map, right? Babylonian world map, right, as you can see here, is written, right, in the, of course we cannot tell and certainly we cannot read it, right, but on the top of this map, which is circular and there's a center to it, you see, right, on top of that is actually the cuneiform script, right, with which we are dealing, because this is circa 700 to 500 BCE. You see, we are still coming, right, coming closer and closer to the year one of our common era, right, and the earth, right, for Babylonian man or woman was round, as you can see, right. So it was round, and what else did they identify in their proximity, right? Well, first of all, we want to see if it's Babylonian. Where is Babylon, right? And you see number 13 is Babylon. So Babylon, you see here, right, in this rectangular, right, is pretty close to that center of the world, so to speak, right? Number 13, right? Babylon is pretty close. And mind you, I want you to pay attention to the fact that these are, in fact, the two parallel lines that go from 1 to 7 and 24 to sort of say 8 or so, right? These two lines, right, are the Tigris and Euphrates, and of course we're going to get to it later on. But you see that, okay, so Babylon is number 13, right? To one section of it, we don't know if it's east, west, we don't know what is the Babylonian conception, right? Number one is we have mountains, right? And number two, right, in number two we have, right, a city, right? Number three, right, number three is Urartu, right, the kingdom of Urartu, and we will get to it later on, right? You see Urartu, the kingdom of Urartu, right? And then, of course, number 4 is the kingdom of Assyria. We will get to it, the kingdom of Assyria. So then you go you see your Babylonian world map once again, right? You see here there is number 7 is swamp. Susa, the capital of Elam, right? This is Iran, and Susa is somewhere here, right? That is indicated on the Babylonian map, right, my friends? So, oh, I'm sorry. Right, that is indicated on the Babylonian map and so on and so forth. So now you see that on the Babylonian map there were two sort of regions identified, right? One was the kingdom of Urartu. The kingdom of Urartu, if you look at your map and you see the Caspian Sea on the right and you see the Black Sea on your left and you see Scythians between the Caspians and the Black Sea, Caspian Sea and Black Sea, and you see to the south of Scythians, right, is the kingdom of Urartu, right? But to the south of Urartu, right, is the Assyrian Empire, right? So and this map of Babylon, right? This Babylon being, if you go on your Assyrian map, right, and you see where Tigris and Euphrates are coming closest together, right, and you see your Babylon there. So Babylon is telling us, right, that to the what we consider east of it, right, excuse me, is well, to what we consider, let's see, okay, what we consider northeast of it, right? What we consider, what we might say, it is to the, this is Babylon, right? And then to the east of it, 3 and 4, right? To the east of it is where Urartu and Assyria are located, right? But we go into the period in time where Assyria and Urartu were both contemporaneous to each other, right? And we see that, okay, this is Babylon, but Assyria and Urartu are actually to the north of it, right? Whereas the way that the Babylonian map was set up, right? It would be to the east of it, right? Sort of to the east of it, right? So we realize, right, that the definitions of north and south and whatnot, right, of the Babylonians and east and west, right, of the Babylonians were different than us, right? And you see, right, that the 14 through 17, as far as Babylonia was concerned, around the world there was waters, right? There were oceans of salt water, right, around the world, according to the Babylonian worldview, right? So the time that the map could have been made is sometime between 824 BCE, where the Assyrian, 670, let's see, Urartu, start with Urartu, 860 to 590. So 860 to 590, right, falls between these two kingdoms, right? So somewhere, right, in around the 7th century, right, Babylonians are giving us this map of Babylon, in which, you know, a great extent of the surrounding world, right, is shown, right? Okay, so that was as far as the Babylonians was concerned. We come a little bit further on, my friends, right? And we will go, excuse me, if that was 700 BCE, right? Now we go to around 500 BCE, and we go to the ancient map of the Greeks, right? The map of the world according to Eratosthenes, right? And here you see, my friends, right? Europe, right? The definition of the Greeks of Europe, right, usually stopped either. This is Black Sea. This sea here is the Black Sea, right? Not Mediterranean, which is the bigger sea to the on the left hand side of your map, right? But on the upper hand side, you see Caspian Sea, and then the sea next to it, that is the Black Sea, this one, right? And you see, oh, excuse me, oops, okay. And you see here, my friends, that to the Greeks, right, whose border of Europe either stops at the east of Black Sea or the west, as we will see, right? For the Greeks, right, actually, most of Asia, right, was actually Persia, right? We will see later on when we get to the Greeks and the Persians, right? Excuse me. Part of Asia was Arabia, right? Part of Asia, excuse me, was India today. If you look on the right hand side, right, was India. And you see to the south of Mediterranean, right, it's not called Africa, actually, it's called Libya to the Greeks, right? And you see the Nile Valley, right, reflected, right? This here that you have the delta, right? When you read Libya and you take the A and you go to the northeast of the A, and you see that there is a delta. That's the delta of the Nile, and we will get to it, right? And the delta of the Nile is clearly reflected, and then you see further down as you go south on the Nile, you will see that they knew also the source of the Nile, right? They knew Arabia, but you see to the east of India there is water. There is nothing else, right? The ocean of water that the Babylonians thought that it surrounds us, right, remains the case, right? And whereas Babylonia is showing to us Babylon, which is very close here, you see, this is the Persian Gulf, Arabia, Persian Gulf, right? And you see Tigris and Euphrates coming closest to each other. That's where Babylon is. And you see that the Babylonians, right? For the Babylonians, the ocean comes much closer, right? The end of this eastern part of the ocean is much closer to them, right? They know about Susa, which is here, which is a civilization of Persia, and we will talk about that. I mean, of Iran, but the they didn't know what lies, right? They didn't know, the Greeks, they didn't know what lies to the east of India, right? They didn't know. Come on. Okay, they didn't know what is to the east of India, right, my friends? So, going back, right, to the Romans, and we get to the Romans, and we see that the Romans have acquired a greater understanding of the world, right? Africa is still called Libya for them, but they now realize that there is an entity called Ethiopia, right? And here you see to the south of Ethiopia, yeah, you look at Africa, right? You see the Nile, right? You see to the east of the Nile, you see the Red Sea, my friends, right? You see this other large river in the interior of Africa, to which we will get, right? And then you see Ethiopia interior to the south of that. And then to the south of that, if you look very closely, you see that it says terra incognita, right? Terra incognita, right? Okay. Terra incognita, right? Cognita from cognition, right? Knowledge. The in negates it. Incognita, unknown, right? Unknown lands. Terra incognita, unknown lands to the Romans was to the south of Africa, right? And you see, as far as the Romans are concerned, right? You see the ocean, you see the Mediterranean Sea, and to the west of the Mediterranean Sea and Libya, you see the ocean. You see the ocean here. You see Indicum, right? India, right? To the east on what is the Arabian Sea and Indian Ocean, right? And you see that by the time we get to circa 170, 170 in the Roman world, Ptolemy, who's coming from Alexandria here in Egypt, who's coming from Africa actually, right? It sort of during the during the Roman period, you see that by then you have to the east, you see this very, very small sort of thing, a note here that this is Sina, i.e. this is China. So it is interesting, my friends, for us to know that by the time that the Romans came on the scene, they knew of China, right? So okay, so this is some specimen, right, of the I'm sorry, of the ancient views of the world. And in the next video, we will get to our modern maps. Okay, my friends? So I hope this was informative. Excuse a little bit of confusion in the middle, and we now go to the next video. Okay, my friends.